Welcome everybody to today's lunchtime webinar. And today's topic is all about how central procurement can help you move your parish towards net zero. So we're going to hear from Parish Buying and from 2x2 all about that, how they can help you on that journey towards net zero carbon. Anyone who's come to one of my webinars before, you'll know I always start with the preview of upcoming attractions, and we've got so much coming up in the next few months. We've got a new net zero carbon topic coming up in October on electric heating solutions, and I think that one will prove to be really useful, especially for churches that are used maybe once or twice a week. So it's electric heating solutions. That's to do with pew heaters, panel heaters, chandelier heaters, heated cushions, and we're running that twice to let as many people as possible come along. Then we are into the season of creation at the moment, and there's a special season of creation webinar, roughly one a week throughout the season. The first one was last week, and then the ones we've got coming up are about why evangelism and creation care are essential to each other, around climate, gender and racial justice, and around creation speaks of God's glory. And then in November, we're moving to a completely new topic. We're touching on climate resilience for the first time. Mostly we talk about climate mitigation. So how do we stop our emissions? Climate resilience is about acknowledging that more extreme weather is coming and thinking about how can we make our churches as resilient as possible in terms of the buildings themselves, and then how can we support our communities to be as resilient as possible. When I finish with housekeeping, I'll pop in the chat a link through to the details and booking links for all of those webinars, and I do hope to see you there. In terms of the housekeeping for today, it's our usual format. So for your questions, please type those into the Q&A rather than the chat. And in the Q&A, you'll see the little thumbs up sign, which is where you can click to say that a question someone else has entered is also of interest to you. When we get to the end of the slides and we've got time left for Q&A, I'll start with the ones with the most thumbs up, and we'll work our way until we get to 1 o'clock. After the webinar, I will send everybody who has registered a copy of the slides and also any links in the chat. So please don't worry about having to write those down. I'll send those to you afterwards. And I'm recording today's session, and the recording will be made available as usual through our website. I'll just skim quickly on the introductions because I know Julie is going to introduce everybody properly. But today you've got Nick, Jenny, Julie Davies and Dave Thomas from Parish Buying and from 2x2, and they will tell you more about their roles when they get started. Right, let me stop sharing my slides. And Julie, I think we're handing over to you first, aren't you? So if you can get your slides up and take us away.
Okay, so I hope everybody can see my screens.
Looks good.
Fantastic. Okay, so welcome today to our net zero carbon webinars. Just clicking onto today's speakers. So that will be so today we have myself, I'm Julie Davies, and I'm a category specialist for Parish Buying on behalf of 2x2, which means that I look after specific categories such as net zero. I look for new solutions to help you select new suppliers and conduct supplier management and performance reviews to ensure that each of our suppliers maintain the required standards that's demanded from all our suppliers. We also have my colleague David Thomas, who's another category specialist for Parish Buying on behalf of 2x2. David, can you introduce yourself?
Hi, David Thomas. I'm the category specialist for energy. So I help look after the Church of England portfolio for the energy contracts that we have. That's with the energy basket, which is the green option, or for fixed terms. And we survey the market and then look and get the options most suitable for the churches.
Fantastic. Finally, we have Nick Jenni, who is the National Procurement Officer. Nick, can you please introduce yourself?
Yes, thank you, Julie. My responsibility is for the parish buying service overall, in particular the relationship between the church and 2x2. I also have direct responsibility for the digital giving category, that's contactless and online giving, and for mobile phone infrastructure in churches, along with some other income generating projects as well. Over to you.
Thank you, Nick. Okay, so our agenda today. So I'm going to say good afternoon and welcome to today's webinar on how Parish Buying and 2x2 can support you on your journey to net zero carbon. The purpose of today's webinar is to discuss the church's plans to become net zero carbon by 2030 and how Parish Buying is a key resource to help you achieve this. We're going to talk about a range of solutions on offer and how Parish Buying can assist you in your journey to net zero carbon. This can be from taking small measures, such as making sure you minimize as many drafts as possible, to installing flow regulators on your taps, thermostatic radiator valves, LED lighting, all of which are low-cost measures, but when put together will have a cumulative effect in minimizing your energy bills, which, as we know, is the biggest contributor to our carbon footprint. To some of the larger capital works, such as solar panels, and alternative heating solutions such as pew heaters, infrared, radiant heaters, ground and air source heat pumps and hybrid boilers. We will also discuss the energy basket offered by Parish Buying, where in this current market it is difficult to, 1, obtain a quote, and 2, fix a price that won't break the bank, where electricity is mainly sourced from renewable green sources and the availability of green gas, which is currently in short supply and extremely expensive. My colleague David will speak on this and take questions at the end, as due to the volatility of the current market and how the situation is changing on an hourly basis. Nick, over to you.
Thanks, Judy. So the parish buying service is provided by Church of England Central Services. Its primary job is to serve parishes and support parish ministry. So far, over 24,000 people are registered members, representing more than 16,000 churches and organisations in the Church of England and in the Church of Wales, which we also serve. We regularly survey these members, asking what they want from the service, and where we can, we offer what they ask for. As a result, Parish Buying has a range of useful products and services and guides for churches and cathedrals, from energy to GDPR training, from contactless giving equipment to church accounting software, from audio-visual and sound systems to photocopiers, and from guidance on buying insurance to advice on buying locally, together with a monthly newsletter. We introduced sustainably generated electricity a number of years ago as part of the energy basket, and have a subsidised programme of energy audits as well. In this session, you'll hear about a broadening range of goods and services to support the Church's net zero carbon aims. Many of the products and services have been procured through our specialist service provider, 2x2, who are an important partner in delivering the parish buying service. In addition to the procurement services they offer, 2x2 also provide the majority of Parish Buying's customer service and supplier management. In order to be appointed on Parish Buying, suppliers go through a rigorous procurement process of supplier assessment managed by 2x2, thus ensuring that churches are dealing with suppliers which meet certain minimum standards. When these framework contracts are signed, they're followed by regular meetings and reporting so as to monitor suppliers' performance. This is an increasingly important part of the work done by 2x2. Finally, the parish buying service is free to members. It is paid for by commissions and listing fees paid by suppliers.
Thank you, Nick. Okay, so the first question we're going to ask, why don't I just find my own suppliers? And you're right, but through the bulk buying power of the church, we have been able to negotiate competitive prices with suppliers across a range of different contracts. All of our suppliers undergo a careful selection process, and the contracts have been professionally reviewed, so you can purchase safe in the knowledge that there will be no catches or hidden surprises. We manage the contracts too, and we can offer ongoing support from our dedicated customer service team. At the heart of parish buying service is the vision to give churches back some time and money, which can then be spent on mission within your communities, feeding the hungry, supporting the vulnerable, and sharing the good news. So yes, you could just Google it, but how confident are you on where they source their products from? Are you going to get good value for money? Are they financially stable? Will they be able to, well, will they still be in business after you've handed over your deposit? Will they follow all the required health and safety regulations to keep themselves and you and your parishioners safe? Can you be sure that their products are being, that the products being offered haven't been made using slave labour? By choosing Parish Buying over a Google search means you don't have to do those checks yourself. We've done all those relevant checks to ensure that each supplier submitted onto our frameworks has satisfied the requirements, including health and safety, financial, ethical sourcing, modern slavery. So you can have confidence in our suppliers providing the best goods and services on the market. All of our suppliers are on the frameworks are monitored regularly through supplier management reviews, and they have to submit monthly reports so we can monitor their performance on a very regular basis. Our suppliers have been chosen because they understand the church process and can support you every step of the way. And our customer service team are here to help you with any issues you have outside of this, or to liaise with the suppliers on your behalf if necessary. We will be with you every step of the way throughout your journey. So, ways to get to net zero. There are a number of ways to contribute to becoming net zero, from the small things, as we've said, from draft excluders, point-of-use water heaters, thermostatic heating valves, flow regulators for taps. These are all relatively cheap options to start you on your journey and can be purchased from any local hardware store. But lots of little steps may have an cumulative effect on the overall picture. As you will see, there are a number of solutions available to aid you in your journey to net zero, and we at Parish Buying and 2x2 have carefully selected our supplier on their ability to provide you with a first-class service and top quality, ethically sourced products, whilst ensuring a competitive price. We'll talk about more of these as we go further down the slides. So we'll start with energy audits. So for those churches who just don't know where to start or what solutions would be best suited for your building, an energy audit is a good idea. You can apply for your church's subsidised energy audit by visiting the Parish Buying website. Currently, there are 100 subsidised energy audits available for churches. The usual cost of an audit is £445 plus VAT. Qualifying churches will receive a subsidy of £100, making the price £345 plus VAT. The Parish Buying discount will be applied automatically to your bill. To prepare for your audit, you will need to complete the Church of England's Energy Footprint tool, which will tell your church what your carbon footprint is. It is based on the energy you use to heat and light your buildings. You will also need 12 months worth of gas and electricity bills. Step-by-step instructions can be found on the Parish Buying website by clicking on the link or scanning the QR code on the screen. It is important to mention that you will need to log in or register on the Parish Buying website if you haven't already to be able to access this information. Once you've submitted your audit request, uploaded all of the relevant documentations and paid the £70 plus VAT fee, your inquiry will be forwarded to ESOS, our energy audit partner, who will get in touch with you to book in a time to complete your audit. Just to be aware, they are currently collating 2 or 3 audits in one geographical area to ensure that they minimise their own impact on the environment and reduce their carbon footprint as well as yours. So this is an example of part of an energy audit. This is sort of the summary that comes up from a very big 20 to 30 page report that they will provide for you. Each building presents different opportunities, but typical energy savings can be around 20% of current consumption. Each opportunity will be itemised in the energy audit report with recommendations including what investment is required, your annual cost savings, carbon savings, and financial return on investment. So this, as I said, this is part of a 20 to 30 page report, and it will give you every aspect of your building, including how your building's used, your current energy supply, footfall, what equipment is being used in each part of the building and the load breakdown, efficient low carbon heating strategies, and energy saving reduction recommendations. Solar panels, by far the most popular of all the capital works. We offer 4 solar panel suppliers who have all been through our rigorous qualifying process. They can support your church with the installation of a solar panel array. Just visit the Parish Buying website, navigate to categories, and a drop-down menu will appear. Click on Net Zero 2030, and a button will appear for solar panels. If you click on that, you can request a consultation. Just a little reminder that you will be required to log in or register to view this information. So we have 3 suppliers who can provide an outright purchase system option. There's also a cooperative agreement. So, and if you don't know what that is, this is where they install the panels on your roof with no capital outlay to the church, with the benefit of a reduced energy cost. But they also give you the option to purchase the panels after 5 years to get the full benefit of the energy generated. Just a note that this option is only available for non-listed buildings. Once you've submitted your inquiry, we will send it to the relevant suppliers. They're normally given 1 month to get back to you with a proposal, but with the current energy crisis, it sometimes takes a little bit longer due to the volume of inquiries they're currently receiving. But if your inquiry is urgent due to grant funding about to expire or any other reason, please let us know. Drop us a line at support@parishbuying.co.uk, and we will expedite your inquiry with the suppliers to make sure you get it on time. The suppliers will submit their proposal to you with a variety of different options from various amounts of panels, different voltages, different styles, and also with the option of battery storage. The proposal will also include how much sunlight you will typically get in your area, with how much the panels will generate, how much it will cost, and how long it will take you to recoup those costs, plus how much reduction in carbon that you will get. There's lots of other information that you will need to submit your faculty applications. So, energy efficient heating solutions. We have a range of heating solutions from suppliers that have gone through the same rigorous onboarding process to ensure the high standard of suppliers we require. These solutions are low impact on your building in comparison to ground and air source heat pumps, for example. These can range from pew heaters, infrared heaters, radiant heaters, and all can be designed to fit in with the style of your church and will almost be invisible to the eye. Depending on the size and complexity of your church, prices for these options can range from approximately £8,000 to £15,000 for a standard sized church and higher for a larger church. Our suppliers and the consultancy offering will be able to guide you through your net zero journey and map out the actions you need to take in becoming net zero. This offering will encompass every element of net zero and not just heating. Please visit the Parish Buying website to request a quote or consultation. So we are working hard at the moment, bringing in new suppliers for a variety of different solutions. So we're currently in discussions with a number of suppliers who can offer these net zero solutions, and we're currently conducting our due diligence checks to make sure they meet the minimum standards required for a Parish Buying supplier. Again, please register for the Parish Buying on Parish Buying to receive the Parish Buying newsletter for updates on when these are available to you. So now I will hand you over to my colleague David, who will talk about energy.
Hi, thanks, Julie. A first step towards reducing carbon for many churches is to contract for sustainably generated energy. Now, as the Parish Buying, we run the Parish Buying energy basket, and the electricity in the energy basket is sustainably produced in the UK, and so this step's made quite easy. The gas, however, is mineral gas, and it's worth noting that in the market itself, green gas is also in very short supply. Many large organisations that also have their net zero targets for 2030 have already locked in their consumption for the green gas. So currently the demand is outweighing the supply, meaning often that in the current market is not an option easily open to many of our customers. But because Parish Buying now, we offer fixed term contracts from a range of suppliers. So churches can request quotations for both green electricity and for green gas. And we can source that amongst all of the energy suppliers that will feed into the commercial meter environment. Now, most of you will be aware that the energy markets have been in considerable turmoil for a number of months. Energy companies are offering renewal pricing only to businesses and churches, and I've often seen new business taken as a risk and not as an opportunity, which means that many churches are finding it hard to switch to greener options. And in many cases, some of the suppliers are refusing to contract with churches for a variety of reasons. That this could be their credit worthiness, it could be the size of the meter, where they view the cost to serve the church is actually not worthwhile because the consumption is the equivalent of a domestic meter. So they're often moving away from trying to serve our customers. So for churches seeking alternative supplier, it often means that there is little or no choice. But at Parish Buying and the energy team, we've been seeking to mitigate this by bundling a lot of the small churches together in order to get them into a contract. Premiums on green electricity and gas, as mentioned earlier, are very high, forcing churches, though, to make a choice between financial sustainability and environmental sustainability. And those who choose the environmental sustainability are finding it hard to find like-minded suppliers, as many of the suppliers who were in the not so distant past pushing green solutions are now moving back towards pushing the brown agenda, with cost being viewed as as the most important factor for their customers. So this is finding it quite hard then to find a customer that is so, what's the word, so pragmatic and promotive of getting the green solution out there. Another issue that we're finding with the market is that due to the current climate, the customers are being offered prices in the morning only for them to be withdrawn in the afternoon. There are several suppliers that are only releasing a certain amount of consumption available each day for new contracts, and as soon as that threshold is met, then all other offers that have been placed that day are being withdrawn, and therefore the customer then hasn't had a contract would have to go through the process again the next day. And this makes for quite a chaotic and frustrating experience for churches and for us at Parish Buying. And our energy team is spending every day trying to secure the best possible deals for the churches. To be honest, it's likely that in the immediate future this will remain, and with uncertainty over how long it's going to last. The introduction of the proposed energy cap will be how that will be applied, and that's going to be an issue with going forward. The announcement came last Thursday. However, with the sad passing of the Queen, that meant that the information wasn't given out to the suppliers on how it was going to be managed, and therefore we're not expecting information to reach those until 2 weeks' time, which therefore will have a knock-on effect of how long this will be, where churches are going to find it hard to get new energy contracts. For every account that we do manage to get into a contract, then the churches, as a standard service Parish Buying, will go through a process to ensure that the customers are secured the reduced rate of VAT and exemption from the climate change levy to which they are entitled. Now, I may have said that because I've said that it's hard to get on it doesn't mean that it is impossible, and we are representing a lot of churches and managing to get them into contracts, but for the foreseeable future, it is going to be a tough task for you to switch to green solutions if that is what you are looking to do.
Thanks, David. Okay, so now we'll open the floor to, this concludes the formal part of our presentation. So Catherine, it's over to you now.
Thank you very much. Thank you to everybody. It is it's quite sobering, Dave, hearing you describing how difficult it is at the moment in the energy markets. I suppose we're all hearing it in the headlines, but brings it home quite how it's affecting churches, and I'm sure some of the questions will be on exactly that topic. So to everybody listening, please do find the Q&A. You can enter your questions in there. You can also click the thumbs up sign next to other questions people have already entered if there's something there that covers the same ground you're interested in. And what I'm going to do is just start working my way through the questions with the most upvotes first. So the first question is from Jeff, and I think, Nick, this is probably coming your way. And there's another similar question and lower down, which is, are we confident that the proposed energy suppliers are genuinely net zero compliant?
Yes, thanks, Catherine. I think the answer is that none of us today is net zero compliant, unless we are consuming no energy and expending none. But I think the gold standard for us is the Church's own transition pathway initiative, and part of our procurement and indeed the planned procurement for the new basket supplier, which is for which work has just started, is going to be to assess any supplier against that initiative. And I'm sure, as Dave will probably explain in a little bit more detail, the fact is that the climate today is one of very little choice, and we are going to be constrained in the sorts of decisions that we might have been able to make, say, 12 months ago or more, in a market which was much more competitive and with many more suppliers than there are available today. So I suppose the answer is no supplier is going to be compliant in the sense of having net zero today, but we will be considering as a major consideration in any appointment their pathway towards net zero in the future.
Dave, did you want to add anything onto that?
I think it's worth noting that when suppliers, I've looked through the questions myself there, not to jump ahead, but I think it relates to this. And there's a big thing about how Total Energies have been our supplier for the basket for several years now. Now, the nature of the basket in itself is it's a long-term agreement, and that is where that's why it's been year on in year on, and that's how, so that we can do the hedging process, which keeps the prices lower down. But if we're being on it, if we look at all of the suppliers, so if I take the People's Energy, who unfortunately went out of business last year, they were championed for their greenness and their net zero, but their supply chain was actually that they bought a lot of their stuff through BP. Now, if we advertise that as BP being the supplier, it would have the same effect as the same reputational issues as it would for Total, and that's the same with a lot of the green supply. They are sections off of, unfortunately, the big oil, the big oil companies. They all have these subsidies further down the chain. So is there a supplier, as Nick said, there probably isn't a supplier possible that is completely net zero, and it's just not going to be. They're just not available.
So I'll put a link in the chat through to, there's a page on our website where you can see those suppliers which have been assessed as being net zero compliant as far as the energy footprint tool goes. So let me put that link there. I have to say that since we did that assessment last year, of course, there's been quite a few changes in the energy market, and a couple of those are no longer in business. But that's the latest list that I have available to share. There are a couple of questions later down which are to do with Total specifically, and since we're on it, let's deal with those now. My understanding, Nick, is that the contract we have with Total is that all of the electricity supplied through the Green Energy Basket is from UK renewable sources. Is that right?
Yep.
Yes, Dave, I think you can answer that better than me, but yes, the headline is that it is they purchase their electricity from UK generators, which are primarily solar and wind, and that is the electricity that's supplied to Parish Buying customers.
Yeah, that is correct.
So whilst the parent company might have involvement in oil,
yeah,
our contract is specifically for UK renewables.
Yeah.
Very good, thank you. So the next question is from Sam, and this is moving on to heating. It says, we are considering installing the heated pew seat solution offered by Schmidt, introduced by 2x2, but would really appreciate any insights on this solution versus under pew heaters that some other churches have installed.
I'll take that one.
Is that you, Julie?
Yeah, I'll take that one. Okay, so the Schmidt one is, so they do the sort of heated seating pads that are installed onto your pews, which are very, so they got excellent padding and things like that on them, which sort of kind of works like your sort of your car heated seats, the heated car seats. Whereas some of the older under pew heaters are air blowing on the back of your legs, which can get a little bit hot. So this is a really safe, really comfortable version of keeping your parishioners warm while they're in church. So yes, this is why we sort of went down this route rather than sort of like traditional, the older version of the heated blowing air into the seats.
And from what I've seen, both work very well. Different churches make different choices. It might be that you've already got beautiful cushions on all of your pews, and therefore the under pew heaters are more attractive. It might be that you've got historic pews to which you don't want to screw on pew heaters, and therefore the cushions are more attractive. I think I've seen them both work well in different circumstances. I'm sorry, Sam, that doesn't quite answer your question. I'd recommend going, if you can, go and visit a church that's done both, and then you can feel what it's like. The next question is from Jeffrey. Our PCC wishes to explore the possibility of installing solar panels for off-grid electricity supply and the possibility of replacing our elderly, inefficient and moribund gas boiler with a more ecological solution such as a ground source heat pump or hybrid boiler. Is there a trusted expert advisor who could visit us and carry out an energy audit? Obviously, you'll need to answer that more generically rather than from their specific church. But in general, if people are looking for advice, is that something that they can find through Parish Buying?
Yes, so if they go onto the Parish Buying website and click on energy audit, they will then come out and they will look at every aspect of your church, from what you currently use, your current usage is, what your footfall is, where your current heating is in the building, and they will look at every aspect of how you could save energy, what would be the best solution for your building, as one solution for one building may not be the solution for your building. And because the older buildings have to be able to breathe and things like that, so some solutions are not the best ones, and they will do an audit on every side of it, and then they will tell you then what it is that they recommend for your church, and they'll give you indicative costs of what it will cost to implement each stage. And it could be for anything from LED bulbs to your taps, to putting your solar panels on, to the battery storage, to replacing your boiler with a more energy efficient version.
Thank you.
I'm just going to say, go to the Parish Buying website and click on energy audits.
And I've put the link to that earlier in the chat, and I'll make sure after we've finished today, I'll send everybody the slides and all of the links from the chat, so you'll have those links to reference later after today. The next question, I fear the answer to this is going to be no. Dave, I'm probably looking to you. It's a question from Sophie. Have you explored purchasing energy from community energy projects? My sense is that those would be too small for them to do the kind of big scale procurement that you do, but you tell me.
Yeah, that's exactly it. We haven't focused much on that area just because of the size of what they generate and for the size of the energy basket in particular. So just because of the demand, we're unable to tap into those, and because the basket goes over national its coverage. So yeah, unfortunately, at the moment, not to say that we wouldn't in the future be able to look at localized sort of opportunities, but currently it's not on the agenda.
The next question is a very specific question from someone who works at a diocesan level, saying, can we find out which parishes in our diocese have had a national energy audit done? And a very helpful reply from someone else who clearly works in another diocese, saying that they had emailed ESOS, who are the firm that do the energy audits, directly to get that information. If someone in a diocese did want to get that list, how would they best find it? Julie, am I looking to you?
I'll jump in on this one if you want, Julia. And if you just contact Parish Buying direct, we'd be able to get that information for you. I get copied into everything that goes to ESOS. If you want to just send me an email, I can forward all that information to you straight away.
Brilliant, thanks.
Saves cutting out the middleman.
Dave, is it appropriate for you to put your email address in the chat, or would you rather people went through the contact form on the website?
I can put it in there. I'm happy to do that.
Oh, thank you. Electric boilers is the next question. Julie, are you looking at all at offering electric boilers? And in fact, there's the next question is similar, which is about LED bulbs and fittings. So why don't you take both of those at once?
Well, we're always looking at new options, and some of the suppliers that we're speaking to at the moment, they are able to offer a variety of different options. So whereas it's not specifically a category yet, it's not something that we'll say no to, but the suppliers we are speaking to can offer a variety from the from the ground and air source heat pumps, the hybrid boilers, and so on and so forth. So yes, so subject to them passing all the criteria that we require, this may be something that will be available.
And on LED lights, because you used to offer those in the past, I think.
So LED lights, although we used to deal with a company called LED Hut, who was sort of a specialist, they no longer trade with the public, unfortunately. But I have been speaking to Office Depot, our stationary supplier, and they now offer all LED lightings and fittings. So yes, you will be able to purchase these through Office Depot.
Is that a separate website, or is that something they find through the Parish Buying website? Tell me more about that.
So if they I'll put my teeth in, apologies. Right, so if they've already got a login, they can just go onto their SmartPad portal, type in LEDs, and then they will be able to go. If you haven't registered already, please come through to the Parish Buying website, click stationery, click on your Office Depot, and then what will happen then is that they'll get open an account on their SmartPad portal, and then they will have access to all the products that they can supply, including LED lights. You're going to have to tell me what a SmartPad portal is, Julie. I'm afraid I bet someone else is asking the same question as we speak. It's pretty much just what they call their online shopping portal. It's just their name for their online shopping portal. Okay. So I can put in the chat, I can see the link through to Office products on the Parish Buying website. Is that the best one to share? That's the best one to share, yes. And that is Office products, but also LED lights. Yes. All right, let's just get that in the chat. Here we go. Right, the next question, let me get that back up again, is around, oh, what an interesting question. So this is saying, how confident are you that you're obtaining the best value for money? And surely that the compliance of suppliers to do all the checks and balances and listing fees and commission would lead to higher prices. So just talk more generally about that. How can you be confident that 2x2 and Parish Buying are offering really good value for money? Well, because we offer the because we sort of class the church as a whole and we have an aggregated spend, so rather than just go in with one customer and saying, I would like this, we'll go, right, we have 16,000 churches, they would like X, Y, and Z. And because of this aggregated spend, we're able to negotiate bigger discounts than you would be able to do if you were just purchasing on your own. So basically, they just look at your purchases as one-off purchases, whereas they look at ours as a big, huge basket of goods to make sure then, and then they give us bigger discounts then to ensure that the business goes through them. So that's how we do that.
I think it is worth adding, if I may, Julie, to that Parish Buying does offer good value for money, but that doesn't mean that you won't find a supplier who offer a product more cheaply. I think what you will then have to decide is, do you go with a price-driven decision only, or do you want the assurance that the supplier has suffered, has gone through the same process for selection, offering quality and financial stability and all of the other criteria. So it is one of those situations where the shiniest car from the second-hand dealer is not always the best deal.
Yeah, and we're always there for back-end support as well. So if you do have any issues for any reasons whatsoever, just let us know, and then we can step in on your behalf as well. So you've always got our support in the background as well, especially if you don't think you're getting anywhere on your own. We can help there as well.
Thank you. The next is an interesting question. It says, could cathedrals have a role in giving bulk to smaller churches for green gas and electricity contracts? I'm not quite sure where that's coming from, but if one of you does, then go for it.
I'm guessing, and I'm just from my interpretation of the question, is mean that by using the market of the cathedral would then allow the smaller churches that are struggling to get contracts, make it more attractive to the suppliers.
I see.
That's what I'm guessing the question is asking. If that's the case, that is what we're doing, not necessarily with cathedrals, but by bulking the smaller contracts together, it reduces the cost to serve for the suppliers, which is then making it a bit more attractive for them. So it is that sort of model, but not necessarily just with cathedrals that we're looking to do.
Thank you.
It is worth mentioning that many cathedrals do use parish buying, despite the name being parish buying, and it's actually available for all church bodies to use.
Right. Now the next two are both questions again about energy, so perhaps coming your way, Dave. The first is, as churches are not domestic premises, we're classed as a small business. Does this mean churches are outside of the price cap and therefore completely subject to the market price?
So traditionally, yes. However, last week there was the announcement of a 6-month price cap for non-domestic meters. Unfortunately, the suppliers don't have the information on how that's going to look yet. And that'll be 10 days after the time of mourning has ended, that Parliament will be releasing that information. And then we'll be able to see how it looks. Before the announcement, it was proposed to the government that charities and SMEs were incorporated because a lot of them have the same usage as domestic. Obviously, the announcement included all businesses. So whether it's going to be at different stages and it'll be a longer term than the initial 6 months for churches, we don't know. But traditionally, that has been an issue. But hopefully now this will make it a bit of a fairer game for us.
I'm just thinking, if people register on the Parish Buying website and therefore get your newsletter, I assume that you're getting information out about this as quickly as you can. So if people do one thing today, I think just registering on your website so that they get that information regularly. The next question is sort of looping us back to suppliers. It's about, why did you leave Ecotricity and how good is good energy? Is that something you can comment on?
I can to an extent. So we can get contracts for both Ecotricity and Good Energy. There's 17 suppliers currently that supply the non-domestic market, and we can get contracts and prices for all of those. A lot of the time, though, with Ecotricity in particular, if I'm being completely honest, they don't want to deal with the church market on a big basis. So when we've spoke to them in the past about looking at the energy basket, they haven't liked the cost to serve the churches is a lot more than they're willing to take on. So a lot of the time, and same with Good Energy, because they are smaller than the likes of a Total or a British Gas or an SSE, so to speak, they don't have the customer service sort of levels that could take on such a big portfolio. So it's not as an attractive option for the bigger contracts, but on a site-by-site basis, we can get the pricing when they're willing to take on new customers.
Next question is about solar panels. We want some information on PV panels and batteries for a grade 2-star listed church. Who will give the best advice and will include structural and faculty issues? That's a bit of a broader question than just procurement. But Julie, if you answer on the procurement side.
Yeah, if you just go onto the Parish Buying website and click solar panels, request a consultation. It will ask you a variety of questions about your church building, what your requirements are. Once you've submitted that, then we'll put that over to our suppliers, who will then come back to you with a proposal. Proposals are about 15 to 20 pages with much of the information that you will require for your faculty application. But yes, if you want any more information or any sort of prices, then yeah, please submit an inquiry on the Parish Buying website.
And more generally, I'll put a link in the chat through to our national guidance on solar panels and faculty, and also a link through to the MCS, the I'm trying to remember what MCS stands for. Anyway, it's the organization that lists all of the accredited solar installers and contractors. And we would always suggest that anybody looking at solar panels would be working with an accredited supplier. Julie, the question was also about, would it include structural and faculty? So if somebody comes through one of your suppliers, do they do that hand-holding right through the process, or do they just do the installation at the end?
No, so they'll give you all the information that you need. I am assuming that at some point you will have an architect or something there, but they will come and do, so they'll come out, so they'll do a desktop survey to start with, to give you your initial proposal. And then they'll come out and do a structural review of your roof, just to make sure that it that is suitable to hold the weight of solar panels. And then they will do all of the drawings that you will need then, or where the cable is going to run and things like that then for your faculty application.
Very good. Thank you, Sophie, who has put in the chat microgeneration certification scheme. Thank you very much. I do normally know that, but my mind went blank. Right, we've still got 27 questions and 12 minutes. I don't think we're going to answer everything, but let's have a go. Question from Edward: does the energy audit consider the embodied carbon in buying new LED bulbs, etc.? I don't think that the energy audits do, Julie. I don't remember them touching on embodied carbon.
No.
We have, however, when I've commissioned a set of more detailed net zero carbon action plans for some of our biggest and busiest buildings, and in those I did ask them to look at embodied carbon, and the embodied carbon was outweighed by the savings on the operational carbon on all of the recommendations, apart from sometimes solar panels. But in nearly all cases, even solar panels, the embodied carbon was paid back through the operational carbon savings, and certainly LED lighting was. So I'm fairly confident on that, Edward, that it might not be in the energy audit report, but the things that they're recommending would be environmentally beneficial. And if what I've just spoken about didn't make any sense, then please watch our video on embodied carbon, and then it'll all make sense. Richard asks, any funding available? The funding situation is very competitive. I can put a link in the chat to our environmental fundraising resources. Anything on funding to add from any of you?
It's quite a volatile market, and it's ever changing. And once the money goes, it is then look for the next opportunity. So yeah, it's just a case of looking at it at the time that you need it, basically.
Right. The next one, is it worth getting solar panels if we don't have space for any batteries? That's not really a procurement question. So that depends entirely on your electricity usage pattern in your building. So if you use a lot of electricity during the hours of daylight, for example, churches that run homeless shelters or youth groups, if they've got electric cooking that they're doing during the day, if you've got electric heating and that's on during the day, if you've got a crypt and you've got the lighting on during the day, so your usage is matched with when the sun is shining, then you will get that benefit of using the free electricity. If most of your electric usage is when it's dark, heating and lighting in the evening, then that's when batteries are more likely to come into play. So it really is a case-by-case basis. I'm sorry that doesn't answer your specific question, Philip. The next question is back on the energy audits, Julie. Will the energy auditors audit the whole estate, the church, the parish hall and the rectory?
Yes, they will audit whatever you require them to do.
I seem to remember
I think though that we should add that for the fee quoted on the website, which is basically a £350 plus VAT net figure, they will only consider as one building a church and church hall which are adjacent to each other, joined together more or less. So if there are multiple buildings which are quite separate from each other, they will be considered as two audits, not one.
The next question is about financial help for audits. I mean, they are already centrally subsidised. I don't know of any announcements about any additional financial help for the audits. As I say, they're already centrally subsidised to a degree. The next question is from Michael. We only have electricity to our church, no water, no gas. We're at the mercy of these suppliers and their prices. We often get power cuts as well, which in winter means very difficult to go ahead. It's not really a question, it's just a very sobering comment. That's the same question as we've already answered. From the government's website, it looks like businesses will only get a discount if they're on a variable rates, not fixed rate. Is that your understanding, Dave?
So, to be honest, it's up for interpretation at the moment. When I've spoke with different suppliers, some suppliers are saying that that's what they're expecting. Others are saying that maybe the churches and the SMEs will get the same benefit that the domestic is going to get, where those that are in fixed term will come down if their fixed term is over where the cap is going to be. So it depends on what level the cap is going to be placed at, basically. And if you're over it, then it'll come down to it. But if you're on a fixed term under the cap, then no, you won't get that. That's how it looks to be. But yeah, we await the announcement.
Like everyone else, we await announcements. The next question says, can you help with the procurement of smaller consumable items such as cleaning products and consumables such as paper towels, loo rolls, etc.?
Again, all of these are available through your Office Depot, Office Products supplier. They can offer all your facilities, equipment and consumables.
Great.
And it's worth noting there is a green range on there as well. There's gone through the environmentally friendly and
they have a very good net carbon zero toilet paper now that hasn't used any carbon at all, and in the making of it. So it's there's a very good product on it.
Fiona has asked, what is the hedging process? I assume that's on the energy basket, Dave, and therefore I'm looking for you.
So I referred to that in my slide. So the hedging process is for the energy basket to keep the price down. It's a fixed term contract. However, to purchase it, it's purchased in different months on the wholesale market, and that's what we refer to as the hedging process. So it's not a fixed term where you've locked in on the agreed price on the day of the contract. Each month, then a certain amount will be hedged for the next year to ensure then that it takes out the risk of market volatility.
Thank you, Dave. Next question is from Pete. When churches simply want to replace their boilers and need a faculty, should we be asking them to explore underpew heaters, heated seats, infrared and radiant heating first of all? So Pete, the new faculty changes that came into effect on the 1st of July move getting a new oil or gas boiler into needing full faculty, and they ask for an options appraisal to have been done, and there is guidance on our heating webpage all about how to do that options assessment. So yes, Pete, and I'll share the link to the heating guidance in the chat. How are we doing? 5 minutes left. Hannah has asked about when will the suppliers list be updated. I'm assuming she means for the EFT purposes, in which case it's work that's ongoing now, and I'd expect to have it up there by the end of the year. I think this one's coming your way again, Dave. It's about the energy basket. Do you know which of the energy suppliers considered to have met the EFT criteria are currently taking on business customers and would be able to offer a fixed rate on renewable tariffs?
Currently today, none of them are offering contracts at the moment for fixed rate. Again, I think it looks like the whole of the market are waiting until the announcement on how it's going to look like.
So that might change quite quickly.
Yeah,
and the government announcements are out.
Yeah, to be honest, it's changing daily on who's offering what. The main two suppliers that are offering fixed term contracts, though, currently aren't suitable for that.
Next question says, our church is an oil-fired boiler. Who should we contact at Parish Buying and or 2x2 to benefit from buying in bulk? So let's ask that more general question. If people have left today thinking, oh, that's really interesting, I'd like to follow that up. How do they get in touch with you? Where do they go?
So they register on the Parish Buying website, and you can choose which product that you'd like to have a discussion with, and then either me or one of my colleagues, depending on which category that it falls under, will be in contact to find out the needs and how we can help. And
there's a contact us link on the Parish Buying website, isn't there?
Yeah.
So let's just make sure that that is in the chat.
I have also put a link in the chat to the oil category on Parish Buying, where there is an oil supplier.
Brilliant, thank you, Nick. How are we doing? 2 minutes. I've got time for one more, I think. We've answered that one. The last question is about energy audits. Is the energy audit a FOC service? I assume that means free of charge?
No,
so it isn't, but it is subsidised. Julie, remind us of the prices.
Yeah, so the non-subsidised version is £445 plus VAT. There are 100 audits offered each year with £100 off. So that would make the £345 plus VAT. And so yes, no, not free of charge, I'm afraid.
Lovely. I think I'm going to have to say to the remaining questions that I'm very sorry. We've worked our way through as many as we could in the time that we had. Looking at all of my panel, really, just if you've got a final reflection you'd like to end on, a first step that a church can take, what would you say if anyone's joined us today? What's the thing to do first if they're wanting to move towards net zero carbon and looking for your help?
I think if you have a plan, then there is, as Julie has put, a range of solutions available on Parish Buying, and I think the first step with them would be to seek alternative solutions and quotations for your plan. If you don't have a plan, then, as Julie also mentioned, the energy audit is a great first step to take, and is a relatively modest sum investment in trying to structure a plan, perhaps for the next 4 or 5 years for your church to move towards net zero.
Beautiful summary. Thank you, Nick. That's 1 o'clock. Everyone who's joined us today, thank you so much for coming. I do hope you found it useful. I'll send everyone the slides and the many links that have been in the chat. The recording will be available on our website in about a week's time. And thank you to Julie and to Dave and to Nick for the time that they've put into preparing for today, and for telling us all about what you can do to help parishes around the country. Let me just save the chat so that I've got those links, and then bring us to a close. Thank you very much and goodbye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.